check and make sure the stream is at the ready.
I hit the button, but it takes about a minute. So
Yeah.
let me know when it hits and we will get started with this.
That is the wrong one. Here we go. Here we are. Not yet, but here in a sec, it'll
So,
load any second now.
and Leo, do you want to pin everybody to the, I forget,
Yep,
pin or
that's the
spotlight?
next
I'm
thing.
always getting those two confused.
Spotlight. No
Yep.
worries. Not yet, but
Hey, Don, did I need access to that document?
Just if you want to follow along.
Yeah, it says sent the request for access to the document.
Oh, yeah, you're good. If you don't have it yet, we're good.
Okay.
Got it.
all right, got it.
All right. So, did we actually invent time zones? Was gasoline an invention or a discovery? And what's really going on right now over at CES, the CES show? Well, those and other things we're going to be talking about tonight in your January very first ever in 2025 edition of Inventor Friday. I'm Don Skaggs, your host. With me tonight is Leo York. Leo, introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are and
Hey, everybody. I'm a copywriter here in Lexington and VP of the Inventors Network, and looking forward to chatting about some exciting innovations going on.
all right, all right. Also with us tonight is Andrew Button from Mashup Lab. Andrew, tell everybody who you are, what you're all about, and what that cool T-shirt means.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Andrew. I'm founder and CEO of Mashup Lab. We run a 100% virtual business incubator for people in rural communities that want to start awesome businesses. In about 700 communities that we're running in right now across both Canada and the US. I'm tuning in from rural Nova Scotia. Great to have you here.
Great, great, good deal. Also with us tonight is Edward Ayers. Edward, tell everybody who you are, what you're all about.
Hey everyone, again, my name is Edward. I am the co-founder and CEO of Inventor Process. We provide business development services to product entrepreneurs and independent inventors. I've been in the industry for about 25 years, and so I definitely enjoy being a part of this and working with those who have a dream and need a little assistance getting there.
All right. Last but not least, we have with us tonight Brandon Kohler. Brandon, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hello, guys. I'm Brandon Kohler out of Indianapolis, Indiana, and I had started an invention company while launching a product by bootstrapping it and getting it off the ground. And then right now, I've gotten a lot of LinkedIn attention. So I've been tutoring people with one-on-one sessions, and now I'm writing a guide to help people actually with their profiles, with both either in your personal one when you're reaching out to people and with you're an inventor trying to find out about procurement and getting into these trade shows. There's a lot of little tips and tricks you can do to edify yourself in and look more professional. And I'm making a guide to help.
All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Now, normally, all of us are all in a room in our building in Nicholasville, Kentucky, and we're all just kind of chatting around the table, and it's all that live, wonderful interaction that we normally have. Well, we didn't do that tonight because we're in the middle of a snowstorm here in Kentucky, and so the snow day Inventor Friday, I think. So we're all working remotely, and but the upside of that is we have people here with us that we normally wouldn't have because we can't fly you from no I keep wanting to say Nova Scotia, from Newfoundland. Or did I get it
Nova
backwards?
Scotia was right. You were right with
I got it right
Nova
the
Scotia.
first time, didn't I? I need to get better on my geography. If I just say Canada, would that count? All right. So we got folks that we couldn't fly in from a lot of different places, and we're really, really glad that you've joined us for this. So with that, let me share my screen, and we'll kind of get started with some interesting stuff here. There we go. And all right. So first off, now that we've kind of introduced our guests, we have upcoming meetings and all kinds of stuff happening that you can learn all about on our website, which is kyinventors.org. Here's our upcoming events. Oh, look, there's an Inventor Friday Live. Oh, wait, that's going on right now. Next week, we have a workshop, and then we have 3 other meetings every month. So you want to keep up with all that and join us for that. And you can do that by signing up on our website at kyinventors.org. We got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of really cool programs. Here's a little blurb about our stint at the Kentucky State Fair last year, which was pretty cool. We had something called the Innovation Station. You can also become a member. You can click on Join Us Now. And by the way, if you missed out on 2024 pricing for a membership plan, well, guess what? It is still available at 2024 pricing through the end of this month. So you've just got a few days to go. But if you want to lock in prices, as they like to say on QVC, prices will never be lower than they are right now. So you definitely want to check that out. And along with everything else, also, if you live in a rural county in Kentucky, please let us know. We've got some new special programs that we're running. And you can either, again, contact us through our website or at info@kyinventors.org. So you definitely want to join us for that. And I'm going to just kind of jump right in to some innovations in history. So this first one is January 1st, 1885. Time zones are adopted by 25 nations. So believe it or not, we really didn't have time zones. So coordinated by the International Meridian Conference, this initiative to synchronize timekeeping worldwide, enhancing communication and transportation efficiency. Sir Stanford Fleming's proposal of dividing the world into 24 time zones, each one an hour apart, revolutionized time standard. You don't really think of time zones as an invention or as something new that we did. But back a little over 100 years ago, well, it was kind of a thing. So that was pretty wild that we had that. And here's another, and I thought this was a very interesting one because this was a history of time zones and daylight savings time. So before the establishment of time zones in 1883, there were more than 144 local times in North America. That just sounds really confusing now, but we kind of take this for granted now. Daylight savings time, that's a little more of a debated thing. I think it's actually kind of in debate right now about getting rid of or keeping daylight savings as a permanent thing. And I really didn't know this, but the daylight savings time part didn't show up till 1966. So what do y'all think? Has this kind of improved our lives, or do you think that there are downsides to all this?
I think it was great back when your average job was corn farmer and we needed whale oil to keep things lit, and now not so much. What about you, Edward?
Uh, I think time zones are important. If you read that a little bit further, I think they talk about the railroads and, without time zones and knowing how to convert them. How would we do business, across the globe or even across the nation, right? Trying to coordinate meetings, trying to coordinate conferences or Zoom meetings like this would be almost impossible if we're trying to, coordinate across 144 different time zones. So I just did a quick Google search on that. The pros of time zones, right? Improved communication, coordination, helps facilitate global commerce, obviously travel and transportation. But when you look at the time zones and what the overall purpose is, one of the big things I put is it's really all about commerce, right? It's really all about being able to do business effectively. And now there's some cons to that as well. But if I had to do away with them or keep them, I'm a big keeper of time zones.
Yeah, I didn't think about this till you mentioned it, Edward, but that you think about it, it'd be harder to do business, especially today. It's like, I mean, like you set up a Zoom meeting with somebody. Okay, we're going to make this at, 2 o'clock on a Thursday. And if there's 144 time zones, that's kind of hard to do.
And again, I know we're going to talk about CES in the future, but when it comes to technology, timekeeping is certainly critical, right? I mean, when you have to sync anything up, when you have to do anything of that nature, I mean, it's really important. What did they say? Support for tech growth. I mean, without
Yeah.
standardized time zones, it'd be, next to impossible.
Yeah. I used to have an old, one of those old shortwave radios when I was a teenager. And there was this station, and this was probably the nerdiest thing in the world. But there was this clock. It was like the atomic clock in Colorado or someplace, and all it did was tick. You heard this big tick, 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 and then every minute of this announcer, or what sounded like an automated announcer, would come up, and he says, "At the sound of the tone, it will be 18 hours, 27 minutes, coordinated universal time." And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever, as a nerdy teenager. But I think it's still a thing. I'm not sure. It's probably on the internet now. What say you, Andrew?
I have a love-hate relationship with time zones. So, like in the past 36 months, we've delivered our program in close to 700 communities. And some of those communities are divided by a time zone. So if you live on this street in town, you're in like central time. And if you live in this street in town, you're in mountain time.
Oh my
And
God.
then you throw like daylight savings into the mix, and one province or state recognizes daylight savings, and the other one doesn't. And so anyway, we time zones are a thing in our world, and checking to make sure that people are showing up on the Zoom call at the right time for the right group is like a logistical nightmare. But
Wow.
but here, like I mentioned, I'm sitting here in Nova Scotia, so we're in an Atlantic time zone, so we're an hour ahead of Eastern. So right now it's quarter after 8 p.m. But if you look at our day, we're beautifully positioned to do business with Europe in the morning and business with the East Coast, Eastern seaboard of the U.S. throughout the middle of the day, and business with the West Coast and the Pacific in the evening. And you kind of can work within a reasonable time. You don't have to be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning or staying up until 2 o'clock. So we can actually get a lot of business done based on where we're located, kind of in this like middle of the of where a lot of people live. So yeah, love-hate relationship with time zones.
So you're strategically located in just the perfect time zone. I never
Yeah,
thought of
it works out well. Like,
No, it's neat that Andrew brings that up, because one of the things is, as I was looking into time zones, it literally talked about certain areas being strategically advantaged to the financial centers of the globe to be able to do business. And that's kind of the point Andrew just brought up, that where he's positioned in the Atlantic time zone, he's well positioned for Europe and all of the US. It's an excellent point.
Yeah, and we were talking about Newfoundland, like some of the fastest growing financial technology businesses here in Atlantic Canada are based in either Nova Scotia and Newfoundland because of that exact reason. Like
it.
they can take advantage of those things strategically.
Had not thought of that. That's cool. That's a cool reason for a business draw. I would have never thought of. So Brandon, what's your take on all this? Are you with us, Brandon? There you are.
I'm in the Midwest, so time zones happen a lot because I'll travel to Michigan and Kentucky and then go to different competitions. And paying attention to when they start, when they end is entertaining because if you go far enough into a state, they're on a different time zone and you're either way early or way late. And then I have family in South Bend, Indiana, and they used to be on different time zones in an area called St. Joe. And so if you try to meet lunch for someone, you're like, are we on Michigan time, St. Joe time, South Bend time? And so I appreciate them for the fact of doing business from coast to coast with the sunrise and how we're supposed to be waking up and getting at least 15 minutes and touching the earth and all that good stuff. So I see why it's useful. I just wish maybe the state lines or county lines were drawn a little bit better.
Right. Well, now you're in the like the Indianapolis area, right? I seem to remember at one time they didn't have daylight savings time, or they didn't change with the Eastern. It was like they were in Eastern one part of the year and Central, because I used to go up to Indianapolis a lot, and I had to check to see, okay, I can't rely on whether it depends whether it's June or or September or January, whether there's a time change or not. Is
I've
it
been
still
here
that
since
way?
about '09 and then was in Ohio previously, so I don't think it's been a problem lately, but it's still entertaining. But that's why I also like GPS because it tells you when you're going to get there. So you're like, okay, it's a 12-hour drive, but I get there at 6 p.m. You're like, how's that possible? And it's like, well, I'm arriving at 6 p.m. their time.
Full
Uh,
agreement. Yeah, without that, I would be real confused, like especially like really long drives. And I know I've mentioned this in a previous live stream, but it's super bizarre to me that some time zones are half hour based. Like Adelaide, Australia, it's 30 minutes rather than an hour or multiple hours, depending on where you are in the world. And I know there's at least one province in India, I think Goa at least, where it's the same kind of rule where it's like, 11:30 instead of noon or whatever. It's very
Yeah.
strange to me.
Newfoundland is like that as
Oh,
well.
you
So
got
they're a half an hour ahead of us still. So it's
so
like
bizarre.
8:45 in Newfoundland right right now.
Yeah, I can't handle that. I'm too OCD for that. It all needs to be like a one big chopped up pizza with 24 zones.
the first time I
Weird.
encountered that was, I think, a meeting Leo and I had with someone in Australia, and Leo was telling me the time, and I'm like, that can't be right. That's 30 minutes off. That just like blew my mind. And I thought, okay, they really do that? And I thought, okay, that's an Australia thing. Well, fast forward to now, just like Leo was saying, I had a meeting today with somebody in India, and sure enough, it was like so many
Weird.
hours plus a half hour off.
Mm.
Really confusing. Glad there's a lot of digital tools for that now. So anyway, all right, let's
Even
move on.
calendars now, it makes you pick your time zone so the other person knows.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So they
That's
know
that
that.
saved me a lot on Zoom. I'll tell you that.
Yep. Gotta love those digital tools. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. And this brings us up to January 7th. No, excuse me, that was wrong. January 9th, 2007. And where's my window? Hang on, guys. It's almost there. Well, thought it was there. Hang on. There it
I
is.
think it's funny that there we go. We make the open meetings look so easy because it's not live. And then when you're live, it's like, hang on.
Right. Oh, goodness. So we're moving on from time zones to Steve Jobs debuts the Apple iPhone, putting the internet in everyone's pockets on January 9th. Yeah, it was yesterday. 2007, or 17 years and 1 day ago. Seamlessly integrating communication, computing, and multimedia in a handheld device, the iPhone has revolutionized the world. One of the most influential recent January events. It was unveiled by the Apple CEO at a convention in San Francisco in 2007. Its touch interface, app store, and sleek design transformed the mobile phone industry, setting the new standards for its competitors. iPhone extended the beyond just the technology, influencing social dynamics, commerce, and culture. So, I mean, it's hard to think that this was just 17 years ago. Here's another one. This talks more about, I thought this was interesting. Skeptics saw no demand for the device. I remember this. Now I'm going to sound like an old fogey. I remember when everybody was just kind of saying, nah, yeah, that's not going to be really anything. They saw no device that combined all those functions. They carried an iPod for music, separate phone for calls and text, and some people had a Palm organizer. Sounds inconvenient now, but what most people use, they just didn't see any reason for the change. And probably my favorite thing about this was in this story, because I remember this. I mean, I wasn't there, but I remember seeing videos on this of when he did the pitch for this. So it's probably one of the best product pitches. And if you've not seen it, I would highly recommend pulling it up. It's all over YouTube. But it was that one. Let's see. Specifically, most people remember the one moment stood out in the 90-minute product launch. He opened the presentation announcing to the Apple world that Apple would introduce 3 new products. Jobs, a master showman, and he was, according to CNET, then surprised the audience with a big reveal. The 3 products were all bundled in one device that would revolutionize the phone. And again, yeah, they're right. This video still holds up in all that. So anyway, question I kind of want to throw out. What do you all think was responsible for the success of the iPhone? Was it the pitch? Was it the technology? Maybe it was something else. You want to go first, Edward? Oh, you're muted.
So I'm chomping at the bit to go with that. And I often say, when you boil it all down, I'm a sales guy at heart, and I love the sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. That's the marketer of me. That goes back to that rule of 3.
Yeah.
So, thinking back on it, I could probably name 15 different reasons why this became such a phenomenon. But the big one, I think, is marketing. Visionary marketing, right? I mean, he went out there and he sold it to the world. And just like today, he had a loyal fan base. They were already used to Apple, and they were standing in line when that phone was introduced, 6 months after he previewed it. So again, I made a couple notes on it, but visionary marketing and branding, I think that was critical. And I don't want to steal everybody's thunder. I don't know how much, but also the fact that what did I say? The strategic partnerships. I mean, the App Store, and then allowing other developers to create products to sell on that platform. Again, just a proliferation of the people that were involved. So if I could name 2 or 3 things, I would say the visionary marketing, obviously the Apple branding, the strategic partnerships, and then, perfect timing, right? And I often say success is really, good product, hard work, and then the one people don't like to give a lot of credit to, luck. You got to be in the right place at the right time with the right product, pitching it to the right people. And at that exact time in 07, I mean, of course, the internet was there, but we didn't have a great mobile way to surf the web, to get on there and get our maps. I think in 07, I was still printing MapQuest and following along. So, I mean, he introduced that product right at the right time. So those would be my three reasons, back to the rule of three, that the iPhone just took off like a rocket ship, and now they're a multi-trillion-dollar corporation.
So do you think it started the trend for uh like a January release? Because there was a lot of January releases after that.
I'll let somebody else field that.
Okay.
I don't
All
know.
right. What say you? Well, Brandon had his hand up. What's going on, Brandon?
I was looking at that one for the iPhone and of course the iPod because I was right at that time frame. But something interesting is I was in school around that period. So Apple had donated a ton of the computers to computer labs at public schools for our graphics programs, for our animation programs, and it already got kids used to iPhone, and some people didn't like it. Some people did like it for the how you closed programs. So I almost think they pre-strategized getting people used to Apple products. And then as you release more of them, you're familiar with them, you like the colors, you like the see-through things, then you want to buy them. And then, of course, they made them cool and some other things. So personally, I'm dyslexic. So in school of having everything backwards for clicking, closing, I hated it. And I love Android. So
Well, I was going to say that was going to lead me into my next question. Are you an Apple fan today? Nope.
it has awesome video editing for like Lightroom, and a lot of people I work with videographers that love it. But personally, I'm gonna stick with Windows and some other aspects that aren't as proprietary.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was I kind of I learned on a Mac. I learned computers using a Mac, and it had to do with, I actually you rented time on a Mac, those little ones, like the very first one, which is going to tell everybody how old I am. But I had to learn. But like this printing shop rented time out on it, and that's how I learned. I just rented time out in a print shop that had one of those little Macs, and where you stick the floppy disk in and all that. But that kind of got me. After that, I was like, okay, well, I know how to do this one, so I just stuck with it. What say you, Andrew? What do you think?
Well, I think sort of Brandon was onto something. Like my take on this is a little bit bigger picture. I don't think it was about the iPhone really at all. I think what made that product successful was the groundwork that had been done in the years leading up to that launch with all these other products. And I think what Steve Jobs was kind of the figurehead of the whole thing, but I think the team that he was able to assemble around Apple in those early days that came out with some of those projects and some of those products was really the secret sauce of it all. And you can debate and question his leadership style and all of those things, but the fact of the matter is he got the most brilliant people, and because of that, I think they were able to really we always talk about, don't, create businesses around, problems that are worth solving. I think what was brilliant about Apple in that stage, and I'm not sure if they've kind of stuck to their traditions around this as much as they did, but they were brilliant and predicting problems we don't know we have yet, but we're gonna have in like 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. Like they had a really unique sense of like seeing the world as it was evolving around us and anticipating the problems that we were going to have. So yeah, we had these all of these devices that did all of these functions, but they're like people are going to get tired of that at some point, and they're going to want it all in one device, and they're going to get sick of carrying a pager and a BlackBerry and a Palm Pilot and all these things. But that wasn't a problem that existed in the world in 2007. Like people were satisfied. It was good enough. We were like, oh, MapQuest, that's a great. I don't have to take it. Like that was we were satisfied with MapQuest, but they were able to predict we weren't going to be satisfied with MapQuest for long. We weren't going to be satisfied with carrying three devices for long, and they were able to kind of really get ahead of some of those curves. And I think it was because of the brilliant team of people that they were able to assemble around the vision of the company that were able to kind of see into the future.
That brings up a great point because I've always kind of just wondered this myself because we always think about okay, you know, if you want to find a good product, good invention, whatever, then find out what the pain points are in the marketplace. But they were almost using some type of predictive pain point detection to say, no, we're not thinking of the pain points they have now. We're thinking about pain points they're going to have in 5 years. And yeah, I really never was able to square that until I heard just what you said, because that makes all kinds of sense.
And luckily they had deep enough pockets to be able to take risks like that. Like as a startup, if you're trying to predict problems that exist for a customer 5 years from now, you may not have enough runway. You may not have enough cash for them to, come on board with what you're creating. But because of the success that they had developed with the iPod and the Mac and like they had enough cash to be able to do those kinds of things and put those products out in the market and take a bit of a chance if it didn't work out, right? Like not every startup has, five or $500 million to kind of play with in the sandbox.
No,
So it worked well for them at the time. It may not be a great strategy for, people that don't have that kind of capital at their disposal.
very true. What say you, Leo?
I think it was a lot of market forces coming together at the right time more than anything. I mean, obviously they made their own luck, preemptively, but more than anything, I'm amazed at how much it changed the world because I mean, I almost feel like, there was BC and AD. I feel almost like after phones at this point, like it's transformative.
That's true. I mean, part of me thinks it's a blessing and a curse because,
Mm.
it's, oh, hey, I've got the whole internet in my pocket and I'm carrying it anywhere. And then I say, okay, you've got all this information that you're just glued to all the time. And then we in some major streets in here in Lexington, Kentucky, you can they've got actual signs on the street corners for people walking across the street, telling them to look up, not look at their phone while they're crossing the street.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, that kind of indicates a little bit of a problem, but yeah, I mean, I guess you could abuse any technology, uh,
And
but yeah,
there's no privacy at all anymore. Like I remember when I was a kid, people would go on vacation and you just wouldn't talk to them for a week and then they come back. Whereas now, like if you don't answer your texts or your calls in 15 minutes, people are ready to just call the police and they're just like, well, something's gone wrong. So yeah, it's bizarre.
for the people that go on vacation and post their vacation photos while they're
Yeah,
there, and
also true.
oh yeah, it's like yoo-hoo, Mr. Robber.
That
So
kills me. Theme parks, especially, people will be filming themselves riding the rides, and it's like you're not riding the rides, though. You're not experiencing anything. You're just
yeah,
filming it. So it's,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
So you
Anyway,
can
that's
look at it
soapbox
later.
over though.
All right. Well, that's interesting. All right. Last but not least, here in the history area, let me. This always takes a little longer than I think. Um, there we go. All right. So, moving on from Steve Jobs to um, gasoline. So, this is actually kind of interesting. The manufacture of gasoline. So, gasoline was patented 5 years after the invention of the Model T. But it was discovered as a byproduct. So I guess you wouldn't really say it was invented, but it was patented. But what was patented was the manufacture of gasoline. So it was a process. It was not patented until January 7th, 2013. Listen to me, 1913, by an inventor named William Burton. Cars were still a recent invention, but the more accessible Ford Model T had only been invented 5 years prior. Um, and this is the actual patent. I guess he boiled the gasoline, which just really sounds dangerous. There's the full
It
patent.
looks like a whiskey still. That's so weird.
It kind of does, doesn't it? So I guess
Yeah.
they're boiling it here. And then they look, they got cursive writing on the patent. I just think that's so wild. Although there's a lot of elements of the patent drawing that really haven't changed, the numbers of the lines and all that. But you're right, it does look like a whiskey still. So maybe that's what they were doing. Now, the one thing I really remembered about I seen a documentary or something about this was the fact that uh, it was almost like a byproduct that was it's like, oh, what was this volatile leftover thing from some other process that they used well, when they were processing petroleum. And it was like, okay, what do we do with this? This is just like this nasty after product thing, and we didn't know what to do with it. And then they came out with, hey, let's put this in cars. So yeah, it just it really I kind of think it's maybe a good example of an invented improvement on an existing product. In the existing, maybe they just discovered it is like this waste byproduct, and then all of a sudden they decided to use it in cars and or use it for cars. So what do you all think? You think this was an improvement of something else, or um, something that we uh, just or if it had a purpose to it, or if it was just reinventing the wheel? What do you think, Edward?
So with that particular patent being the manufacturing process, obviously, gasoline's a discovery. Discoveries are not patentable, but the ability to manufacture that discovery is what made it patentable. And if I remember or thinking about this correctly, the Model T was out there. The gasoline in the what do they call it? The combustible engine was there. They were using gasoline prior to that patent. I believe this problem that patent solved was making it rapidly producible and therefore affordable for all the people who can now afford Model T vehicles because of Ford's production techniques. So I think, again, gasoline now new they've got patents on gasoline chemical concoctions that they've improved so they don't make as much smog, or they burn cleaner, or they burn longer, and all of that. Those are improvements obviously to the original discovery of gasoline. But that patent, one of the first in the production of gasoline, I think was really in the intent of mass producing at an affordable rate, and that made the Model T cars much more usable for folks because, well, now they could power them.
There's a lot of things like that. You actually got me to thinking of that. To kind of go off on a tangent, one of my favorite examples of this was stainless steel. And before Bessemer and Carnegie, you could only make small objects. It was really expensive to make things out of stainless steel. I think it was just like, small tools or utensils and Bessemer kind of cracked that process, and Carnegie was the one that took off with it. And that's what built bridges and skyscrapers and all the things we know today. But before that, nobody figured out how to mass produce it. And fast forward to today, and this is one of my favorite hobby horses, is I see a parallel with that with graphene. It's real expensive to make, and they're making it in small quantities now. But if somebody cracked how to make that stuff in mass cheaply, they'd have something. Uh, so anyway, with that, what do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's really about the improvement of the process, right? And what's interesting to me about this particular example, like I think there's a lot of innovation that happens within processes that doesn't actually get held up as innovation, right? So when we think of innovative startups, or we think of technology enabled companies and those sorts of things, we think about like a thing that gets created, either a piece of software or a piece of hardware. But I think there's a lot of innovators out there that don't think of themselves as innovators because they're doing something different with a process. They're marketing different. They're creating a different way of making Zoom calls more interesting, or those sorts of innovations that I think sometimes we narrow the definition, the box that we try to put in innovation in. And I think there's a lot of untapped potential sitting outside that box because they don't think of themselves as those innovators, right? Around the process, right? And I often share the example I shared it with you all yesterday of just by a show of hands, who here has heard of the Rubbish Boys Disposal Company? Oh, okay, Jennifer. Jennifer has, okay. Who here has heard of 1-800 Got Junk? Yeah, yeah. Jennifer, you must be in BC somewhere. You're on the West Coast. No, okay. But yeah, like Brian Scudamore when he was creating Rubbish Boys Disposal Company with a $700 truck he bought in a Tim Hortons parking lot and painted 756 junk on the side with spray paint on a piece of plywood. You wouldn't think of that as an innovative company, right? But what he was doing in terms of customer experience, guerrilla marketing, systems around logistics, all of the stuff on the back end that the customer never really saw. They just experienced and felt. That's where the innovation was. And I think there's a lot more businesses that fit in those kinds of categories that we don't actually get credit for because they're not showing up in the patent registry. They're not necessarily copywriting anything, but they're innovating the heck out of industries and businesses and business models and all that kind of stuff. So I get excited about that kind of thing. The stuff that you see at the trade shows and the custom CES and all that stuff that we'll talk about in a minute. That's fun and interesting. I get really excited about the potential of innovation that happens on the back end of the shop.
Yeah, I love that concept. And it's funny, I was talking about somebody with about that today. And actually they had a process that had never been done before, but it's like, well, these companies already have these things patented. And I'm thinking, no, nobody's put these two things together before though. And they didn't even think. I said, hey, you've got something you could patent here. And it's amazing to see that, and it's really exciting to see it in real time, I think.
Yeah,
I'm
and we just get a ton of entrepreneurs that go through our program that are doing something in their kitchen with their kids running around that if it came out of a university somewhere, it'd be like the most innovative startup on the front of Inc. magazine. But because
right.
they're doing it in a backyard shed or they figured it out because their tractor broke down in the middle of a field somewhere, it's like it's not held up as the same kind of innovation. I think
Yeah,
we're doing ourselves a disservice by not telling those stories and not giving them the credit that they're due. Because I think there's a lot more people that fit or see themselves in that story than the ones that see themselves at presenting at the next tech conference.
absolutely. Yeah, there's so many just super innovators out there that they don't have letters after the name. They'll have dirt under their fingernails, but they're there. Yeah, and Andrew, I know you and I both see those people a lot, and we see them more every day. It's amazing. They're out there. And if you're listening, folks, call us. Brendan, what say you?
The only thing that jumps out at me because the Model T was the first of its kind with being a vehicle, it was like big and impressive. So you had a lot of scientists and engineers working on it, and it's as big as like electricity and the light bulb and huge farm equipment that you'd want to patent something like that. You'd want it to be in the newspaper. You'd want the attention. You'd want all of that. So that was another reason for the publication. I feel not only the monetary portion of it, but to go down in history with that portion of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just amazing. Leo, what's your thoughts on all this?
I think that's one of the great marks of real innovation is using garbage or byproducts or something that you normally wouldn't, as Jennifer in our inner circle mentioned, Vaseline was also an oil making process byproduct, and people started noticing that there was a medicinal possible use for it, and now it's in almost everybody's medicine cabinet. It's bizarre. Lysol started off, well, I won't go into exactly the nature of it because it might get us kicked off YouTube, but it was not used as a disinfectant originally. Same thing with Listerine. Like a lot of things started off as you know, trash, so to speak, and then somebody saw the value in it when it was used in a different application.
Kind of brings a whole new definition to the word technology transfer.
Yeah.
Did we have, you mentioned something in the chat. Did we have any other chat things we want to touch on before
Jennifer
we
had
go?
mentioned Vaseline specifically,
Ah,
which, yeah.
cool, cool. Good deal. Good deal. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. Now I think we're going to move on to something a little more up to date, and that is inventions in business and in the news. So this first one here, actually, we're going to touch on. We're going to have a very, very CES centered um, segment here because we have three different articles, all from CES, all about CES. And here's this first one that comes from TechCrunch. And it is the CES 2025, the weirdest tech products and claims from this year's event. So we've got a robotic cat that cools down your coffee for you. We've got an electric spoon that elevates the flavor of your food.
By electrocuting you.
Electric, is that what it does?
It does, yeah, yeah. It simulates salt by electrocuting your tongue. I'm not kidding.
Okay, that is wild. I didn't read into it that far. So the company says its spoon uses a weak electric current to concentrate the sodium ion molecules on your food, adding a stronger umami,
Umami,
umami.
which
And
is, no, I'm gonna get on a soapbox. It's savory. I don't know why people insist on use the word umami. It's savory. That's all it is.
that's all it means? I didn't even know
That's all
that.
it means. Yeah, yeah. It's savory.
That is wild. Okay, I don't want to electrocute my tongue. That is wild. Yeah, anybody just sing out if one of these jumps out at you, or if you know something about it. You'll hear in the
That Nitro Blaze, that's the one that I think would have been an E3, like not necessarily a favorite, but it would have been announced at E3 if it was still around.
a handheld gaming console that's really, really big. Acer's latest product is really pushing the limits of what's considered portable.
Portable. Yeah, I mean,
I
really, it's like they saw the Nintendo Switch and were like, what if it was the size of a flipping TV? And that's what they did.
Well, here, I want to click on this and see if we can take a look at it. Ridiculously large. That's what they're calling it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that looks pretty big. What do you think? You think that'll catch on?
Uh, for a few people, I think that there is a subclass of PC player who's going to be like, this is going to be phenomenal because I don't want, something that takes up a lot of space, but I don't see it doing that well market wise. That's just my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think the real lesson to learn with this product is two things. Like they're unapologetic about how ridiculously big this thing is, and that it's not going to be for everybody, and they're okay with that. Like they're not necessarily looking to position this product as something that's going to be in every teenager's, basement, right? I think they just accepted the fact that they were creating something for a very specific kind of person or purpose or solving a very specific kind of problem, and they were like okay with it, and they didn't really care if it caught on for for the masses. Right. So I think that's the real lesson to learn is like, so sometimes you just got to be unapologetic about what, what the things are, and maybe even highlight it as an asset versus trying to cover it up because it's going to be a problem for some people.
Wow. Any comments, Edward?
I was just going to say, I love all of Andrew's comments. I mean, it's enlightening hearing what he has to share, but it's kind of like that one of the rules of sales, right? You want to hit the objection head on. And it's kind of what Andrew was talking about. I mean, they're just completely unapologetic about the size and even using its size and its how large it is in its marketing, right? That way, no one can ever use that against them as a reason not to buy. It's an asset to them in their marketing. So I just think that's genius.
Reminds me that something I saw this week about Pizza Hut. There was like this rumor flying around that their dough was
I
frozen,
I
and
saw that. That was brilliant.
yeah, they did this commercial where they actually set up a freezer in a grocery store, and it was like frozen Pizza Hut pizzas. You took it home and you opened it, and there wasn't anything in there but a flyer saying that no, we never freeze our dough, and here you can order a free one just by going here. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, let's see. Anything else strike our fancy on this one? Concept laptop with a rollable screen turns into a reality. Now, Leo, I know you'd mentioned something on this.
That out of all of them is the one that I think I would be most likely to buy. I think that's a really cool concept. I've seen TV displays like that roll out, but I've never seen a computer manage to do that. I don't know if it'll have any like long-term issues, but just from the demo, I'm pretty sold on it. I think it's a brilliant concept.
Let's see if we can, let's see what it,
Lenovo always seems to have at least one cool concept that's yes. But this 0.7-inch notebook,
there it
which
is.
basically it's unrolling to become a 16.7-inch notebook, which basically expands the overall display release date by about 50%. Now, granted, it does look a little bit awkward. This is a super tall display, especially if you're out and about, but you get so much usable area to work
They
with.
can get that to fold out to 3 monitors. I'm sold.
For having a rollable.
Say that again.
They can get that to fold out to 3 monitors eventually. I would be sold like 100%. That is something.
I can see that tall and then just all the way across. Yeah,
Mm.
I might be interested if it does that. So yeah, that's pretty wild. Any thoughts, Brandon?
I don't always buy new technology right when it's first out. I really like that Gen 2, Gen 3 because I like to see
I'm a late
what they
adopter
fix
too.
on it and then to also check that price drop. But I'm not always the biggest guinea pig, but I do enjoy the new features. That way you have something to look forward to and then the new standard.
Yeah, that looked pretty cool. But I'd rather if something's gonna go wrong, I want it to be somebody else and not me. Let the early adopters have all the pain points. So
Because I'm
Agreed.
kind of picky with having a science background. We had to go through a lot of quality testing, a lot of um, rigorous testing. So you put things through so many more functions and focus groups and let kids play with it and let people try to tear it apart and use it for it's not meant to be. And until you can fix a lot of those things that you found out that were wrong, I don't think it's ready to release.
so in other words, if you really want to test something, just find some real destructive kids.
And people that don't know technology because they'll try to use it in something that's
Yeah.
not meant for, and everything's supposed to be touchscreen now. So, I mean, there'll be marks on it and
Yeah, that's true. If it can go wrong, it will at a customer's hands.
and then people will still put remote point remotes at it. So it's a little bit of a mix.
Right. Oh, let's see what else we got here. An AI powered spice dispenser, an AI powered bird bath. Okay, I was going to pass over this one, but let's see. Big Buddy's smart bird feeder is a $4,799 AI powered bird watching binoculars.
I think those are two separate products, right?
Oh,
There's
they are?
more in between there. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. The bird buddy is
The
not.
neat thing about the bird bath, it notifies you when there's birds actually using it. You can actually take photos of the birds, and then for a subscription fee, they can actually identify the birds for you. Kind of like I have, I think what's it called, Plant Now. I point my camera at a plant leaf, it tells me all about the plant and all of those
Hmm.
good things, and if it's healthy or not. It's going to do it with birds, and yeah, I think that's pretty interesting if you're a bird fan, a bird watcher.
Okay, so it's not $4,000. It is
That was
199.
a specific pair of binoculars that
Yeah.
they were
And it's by
talking about.
Swarovski, so it's probably covered in like rhinestones or
Crystals or
something.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so this is what I suspected right here. We had this on Kickstarter Pass or Fail in 2020, initially as a Kickstarter project. The Slovenia and Kalamazoo, Michigan-based startup. Now that's an interesting combination. Today has announced 100,000 active Bird Buddy users who are using its original smart feeder AI-powered mobile app to engage with nature and learn more about their local bird populations. I remember us doing this. Do you remember this, Leo? Uh,
Oh yeah. And I remember nobody thought it was a good idea either because, yeah, that's niche. But I will say people who are really into birds, like I know a lady with a bird podcast and they're really into birds. So I kind of get why, there's riches and niches. Like this is definitely one of those niches.
Brandon, you look like you're chomping at the bit.
I wanted to have one more feature where it's got like extra compartments, and if there's like a favorite bird and it identifies it, it opens up that compartment for that bird. Or like if there's a rare bird, it opens up like a treat compartment because that's the one you'd actually want to take more photos of versus your common birds. But
I almost thought you were going to go and a trap door slams down and you get to keep the bird.
easy, Don, easy.
Mm.
That sounds like something out of a cartoon, maybe. Um,
Mm.
but yeah. That's a, maybe you need to be calling these guys.
Yeah, you could be the beta tester.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool.
Next level consulting.
I
Right.
want to say the bird watching market might be bigger than we're giving it credit for. And the reason I say that, well, someone has a bird podcast, but I'm at the National
Yep.
Hardware Show every year, and I am shocked at the number of bird houses, bird feeders, different ways that you can feed, the birds. And what are those little guys with the fast moving wings called? The hummingbirds and all the different
Oh
devices. So
yeah.
again, I don't know the exact size of the market. I don't know the you know the economics of the market, but I do know it has to be fairly substantial based off what I'm seeing at CES, National Hardware, and then just moving out to the South 3 years ago. When you go to these farmers markets that happen every weekend around town squares, the number of I pass or nicely call them country boys are building these homemade birdhouses and the number of people buying them. So it might be a little bit bigger market than a lot of folks are thinking.
That's
It's a
true. Well,
massive
some chicken
market.
keepers too.
Nope, Andrew knows
Go
about it a
figure.
little bit. What's happening with it?
Yeah, a little bit. It is a massive market. And I think, yeah, again, the lesson to learn here is like I think oftentimes we write off some of these products and because like it's like super niche. But when you take super niche and multiply it by 3 billion people, that can be a huge market. And like some of these really like obscure sort of off the beaten path sort of hobbies and interests in industries and with the proliferation of like social media and Reddits and subreddits, like if you get into some of these subreddits, there's like massive followings around some of these really super, obscure businesses. So I think I deal a lot with economic development folks and people that are trying to get more entrepreneurs creating awesome companies in rural places, but they don't necessarily have exposure to the kinds of things that we get exposed to with 1,000 plus entrepreneurs coming through our program in 3 years, right? So some of the businesses that come in, like I'm thinking, there's no way they're going to be able to figure out how to make money with that idea, and then all of a sudden, like they're knocking it out of the park and bringing in, building a team and creating a whole business around this thing that was seemed relatively obscure, but they found a really interesting community around that particular thing that was, have money in their pockets to spend. And because everybody else was ignoring them because they thought it was like this weird thing, nobody was was really making products for them, and they found themselves a really really cool market. So yeah, we've had a couple of people that are in this space, and I'm always surprised about the amount of money that they're able to generate from people that are just really into birds.
I
We
love that
had
point that you're bringing up about the consumer of bird products. I would assume it's not people who are financially strapped, right? These are people with an expendable income. I don't want to compare them to fishermen, but if you create a new type of football, well, the mother of a 12-year-old buys it once and it lasts them for 10 years. But a fisherman goes out there and buys a new lure every 3 months, right? And I would assume it's kind of like that in the bird watching market. You've got a
Yeah.
target market with an expendable income that's in love with their hobby and willing to spend on it, which then causes the proliferation of new products to meet that need.
Exactly. All kinds of other, not just new products, but services. Like we had
Services.
one lady that came through that created a whole business around creating like eco tours where people would go find these obscure birds and then do paintings. So they bring out the easels and all that stuff, and in the highlands of Cape Breton. And people would come from all over the world with their $5,000 Sikorsky binoculars, and they show up on the edge of this beautiful cliff, and they do paintings, right? Like, so I think like entrepreneurs get really creative about how they kind of can accessorize some of those really sort of niche interests, niche hobbies. And what better generation to be doing this in than having access to those really super specific communities and all kinds of platforms, technologies that are able to able to go find these folks that would be absolutely impossible in 2007 when the new iPhone came out.
I love how I tied that in.
Oh, that is wild. Well, let's see what else we got here. A $1,350 espresso machine. Okay, I don't know. Maybe I'm not into the espresso stuff, so yeah, I don't think they cost that much generally. The machine features 10 digital sensors that monitor what. Okay, yeah. Okay,
This is kind of like with the
I'll.
bird hobby. Coffee people can be intense.
You think that's it? That must be it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that sounds overpriced to me. Of course, I spend $40 on a knockoff Keurig, so.
But one interesting thing I'm noticing though, I've been doing a lot of traveling over the last 3 years, and I take advantage of Airbnbs whenever I can because I'm often going to some small town that doesn't have have a hotel. And what I'm noticing is like Airbnbs that are trying to differentiate themselves are putting in some high-end coffee
Mm.
equipment. And we were just someone in San Francisco actually that had a really cool kind of technology enabled thing, and it creates a whole other experience. Like we would just stay longer in our Airbnb. We gave them a 5 out of 5 rating because they had probably a $2,000 espresso machine
Mm.
available to us in the Airbnb. So for that business, it's like, yeah, if we can just bake that into the recipe of the price and cover the cost of a significant piece like that, it creates a whole other following of people that are more likely to book their Airbnb than somebody else's.
Kind of almost a
Wow.
B2B model then.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Trippy.
See, an AI wearable that mounts to your temple. Okay, that one just creeps me out. Uh,
Mm.
Seems like there was something else. Oh yeah, well, here's another one. Smart glasses that beam a screen into your precious eyeballs. I love the way they worded
Hmm.
it. Smart glasses from the buzziest AI form factor of late. Wearables is jumping in on the height with a slightly different approach. Rather than projecting a screen onto a lens, it projects a 3.5-inch round display right into your eyeballs. I don't know. I don't know about this. What do you think, guys? I'll pull it up here.
I know
Like
their
Brandon was
booth.
saying about being a late adopter, I'm gonna wait to see what happens to people's eyes.
Right.
They had prototypes there and they were allowing people to use them and wear them, and the booth had tons and tons of traffic. Is that going to equate to sales? I do not know, but smart glasses of every type and every variety were big attractions at CES
Mm.
this year. And there were I'm a little bit nervous. I'm scared about the damage to the eye. I'm scared about being brainwashed. So I was not one of the people trying them, but I don't want to use the word amazed, but my vocabulary is too small to use another one. The number of people who were just lined up to test drive those optics, and it was pretty neat. Are those smart glasses? So yeah, they're super popular, and I think we're going to start seeing more and more of them. And we maybe want to be careful because so many of them have cameras and recording devices built into them as well.
Yeah, I just keep hearing the theme to the movie They Live. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, Edward.
Hmm.
What
Yeah, I
say you?
actually saw
Oh,
one quick
yeah,
comment.
yeah.
I actually saw a teacher complaining that kids were cheating at their school because they had wearables. So they were, the teachers didn't know, so they're looking up test answers with their glasses in class. So yeah. Anyway.
Google ate my homework. Brandon, you got something on this?
I was just entertained because Jennifer took her glasses off like she was recording us or like a smart glass. No,
Oh,
I think it'll be really neat. And I wish you could like link it, put it with LinkedIn. So like when you're walking around a networking event, you would unfortunately identify someone and you're like, oh, you went to Tennessee State and you've been at your job for 2 months. So it would give a easy conversation starter and creepy all at the same time because some people are really good with names and some people are horrible with names, and that might make you better.
you just have to act like you've already met him. Well, hey Joe, how are you? Oh yeah, yeah. I could see that. LinkedIn used to have this app or this feature where if you were in a big room full of people and they had whatever this thing was on, you could like connect with them in the same room. I don't think they have that anymore though.
They're good on the profile part now, where if you meet someone and you want to share profiles, there's a quick profile share with a new customer, a new client, business employee that's pretty beneficial, but I haven't seen that other one lately.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
It's
your
almost
take,
like the
Andrew?
dot card, but it's your LinkedIn profile.
Hmm.
interesting.
And then it instantly connects you.
Hmm. What's your take on the smart glasses, Andrew?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and just on the LinkedIn thing, I think it was like who's nearby or something. There was a nearby function, and if my memory serves, I could be wrong about this, but I think they got in trouble with some
Oh,
privacy stuff that they had to yank that feature, and they
um,
and they went with the quick to share because people didn't necessarily want other people to know that they were in the same
Ah.
restaurant with
I
somebody
see.
else. A different,
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
I remember there being that angle to it. But I think what's interesting to me, but all of this stuff isn't necessarily about the way some of these technologies are being used for these purposes. Like I think what becomes interesting to me is about how does that, these glasses that project onto the eyeball, what's the collision of ideas that happen in other industries like the medical field that says, oh, they, just be, they were, maybe a solution looking for a problem because they didn't know what to do with their engineers for a couple of months and say, oh, go figure out a new piece of technology. But what implications might that have to bringing vision back in people that were born blind, or like, so I think it's like the platform that these kinds of things create. It's not just about the products that they're trying to sell today, but how can we use the technology that exists in that product to do some really cool things that have a much broader impact and a completely different application, that could be revolutionary in terms of how we live our lives and how we connect and interact. So I think that's the real value of these things. It's not necessarily, the cool tech is cool, but it's really about how can we take the things that are being created and think of different applications for them that actually become 10 times more purposeful and useful versus just being able to see that you went to Tennessee State in my glasses at a networking event. Although that is quite useful, I would love to be able to do that, but I think there's other things coming.
Brandon, I see you've got your hand raised.
I like Andrew's point of like mixing technologies in different fields. I don't know if it's true, but I heard some surgeons are wearing like a Quest 3 headset while they're performing surgery. And then while they're looking at different parts, it can identify it. And then you can add more information to it. So if you were performing surgery, you could actually know what the normal thickness of this membrane was so that you'd know how much to cut or different aspects or where the capillaries go. So I don't know if it's true. I heard it and I was like, oh, that makes sense and it sounds cool.
AI
I heard that too,
assisted
yeah.
surgery. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, trippy stuff, but it makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's another CES flying car claim. Is this the one,
Yes,
Edward,
sir.
you were talking about?
Yes, sir. And that's not technically a flying car, so that's a misleading headline.
Okay.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. I'm gonna stop the share and I'm gonna see if I can share the video you did on this because it looked pretty cool.
I just need to earn a little more money and I'm going to buy one. Well, a lot more. Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Edward coming to you from day 2 of CES. We have a break in between appointments, so we're exploring the
Little
floor.
blurry.
We came across big traffic, your own personal helicopter. Fits 2 people, it's purely electric, and it has a 300-mile.
Oh wait, I think I can do better than this,
I
guys.
think you're using the text one.
I'm using the text one. Okay.
And I said a 300
we're
mile
gonna start
range.
this again.
I think they said a 600-mile range actually with the
Oh,
range.
really? Oh, wait, I think I've got it. I think I've got it. Nope, that's not it either. Hang on. I knew I had it up. Yes, yes, there it is. All right.
Hey everyone, it's Edward coming to you from day 2 of CES. We have a break in between appointments, so we're exploring the floor and came across the solution for big traffic, your own personal helicopter. Fits 2 people, it's purely electric, and it has a 300-mile range. And that vehicle to the right is its own personal aircraft carrier. So big city traffic, out in the country, they've got you handled here at XP Hayhort.
All right, that's just cool.
Yeah, so that helicopter fits in the back of the van. And as you're driving the van, it's actually charging the batteries of the helicopter. And I forget how many times you can charge the helicopter off a single tank of fuel. But yeah, it's pretty neat. So again, it's not truly a flying car. It's an honest to goodness helicopter that rides in the back of that van.
Or a really,
Yeah,
really,
it's like
really
a,
big drone.
that's what I was thinking. It's a drone you can sit in.
Yeah, right.
Except you control it from the inside. I guess they probably could build a
Right.
remote, but unlike a drone where it's got a pilot on the ground, you're actually piloting that bad boy.
Trippy.
And it's got tons of safety features. If you'd watch the video, God forbid some of the rotors mess up. God forbid you're, clumsy like myself and make mistakes. I mean, they've got redundancy after redundancy built in for safety. If it gets off the ground, that's a whole nother thing.
Any idea what the altitude is like for that thing? Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I just noticed. Well, that picture is really cool, but then I thought, if I got to fly that thing, I don't think I'd want to fly it over a rocky, uh, a steep, rocky ocean crash area.
Mm.
Right.
That just,
And if folks are interested in more of this stuff, there's a great 60 Minutes episode where they profile, I think, 3 or 4 companies that are at the cutting edge of this sort of personal aircraft. And I was shocked to hear how close, like when I first, started to hear about it, I was like, oh, this is going to happen 20 years. Maybe we'll have our own way of getting around by air, but it's like, it's coming a lot faster than I would have ever anticipated. And like people in the process of getting, like, I think it's FDA approval or like whatever the airspace regulator is, like people are actually going through the process of getting approval for this stuff. And it's remarkable how close it is.
I don't mean to, so I think the technology is out there and, the ability to do it. And it's neat that they're getting the necessary approvals. But so many people have difficulty driving a car on the ground with clearly marked road signs and signals. I mean, what happens when these personally private piloted aircraft start falling out of the sky onto our homes, because people are on LinkedIn when they should be flying? I don't know what the consequence of all that is,
Yeah. If that becomes mainstream in Lexington, our population is going to be cut in half in a week because people
It
can't
might
drive
be a
here.
good thing.
they can't drive anyway.
If no safety and warnings on it.
Yeah, I would like to think you'd almost have to let them be self-driving vehicles at that point. Otherwise,
I think most of them were. Yeah.
How's that?
I think most of them were either controlled by some sort of central piloting service on the ground, so you kind of just like punch it in like you would a Uber or Waymo. Like we got to drive in a Waymo and when we were in San Francisco as well, and that was really cool. So I think it's you're not actually on the controls as you go in. You just kind of say, I want to go from here to here, and it goes. But yeah, like it is going to be a bit of the wild, wild west. They have not figured out what the real sort of rules or, to Edward's point, consequences of putting some of these things in the airspace might be.
Yeah, and that might be why it might take a little while longer. All right. Well, let's see. I've kind of ignored this other page here. The best AI tech of CES. So we're going kind of from the absurd to the little less absurd. There's the glasses again. Or no, that looks like a different one. Halliday AI glasses. And then Natura Humana human pods. This one kind of jumped out at me. Roborock Saros Z70. There's a lot of buzz along with tech aficionados attended about a product.
It's a Roomba that picks up your laundry.
Why am I having vibes of that what was it? Helper, the robot from
Venture Brothers? Yeah. No,
yeah,
I see
Venture
it.
Brothers.
I totally see it.
It just reminds me of that. I'm thinking, okay, it's like picking stuff up, carrying it off. All right, is it only limited to socks or?
For now, I think, but eventually, things bigger than 8 ounces.
Yeah, I could see that. Removes obstacles in his path, causing most people to stop in their tracks. I don't know. What do you think, Edward? Did you see this?
Robotics, though, is those minute movements that they're able to do now. I mean, I know it's picking up a sock. It's not a big deal, but that's a pretty minute little movement that computer has to do to pick that up and move that over there. So, I mean, it's an awesome Roomba, but there's a lot of technology in making that bad boy happen.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, think about all the specific movements and processes that would have to go through to, okay, there's a sock. I need to pick up said sock. I'm picking up said sock. And putting it where it's supposed to go. I mean, is that all intuitively programmed, do you think? Or
I'm sure the home base has to be programmed where it deposits what it picks up. It has to, I would assume it has to know that. Uh, but yeah, I'm not for sure.
yeah, interesting.
Very trippy. But yeah, yeah, AI is definitely the hot button issue this year. And the fact that this uses AI like in its camera to determine, the location of an object is just bizarre.
Says it can pick up to 8 ounces. Some products include socks, napkins, tissues, and even sandals.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
Let's sell a bunch of them to the restaurant and bar industry to prevent people from walking out of the bathroom with toilet paper and embarrassing themselves.
Ooh,
It
nice.
just chases you down and grabs it real quick.
Now I
And you
am
can
thinking
cash
of a
app it right
helper.
there. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, this is totally one of the ones where I wasn't necessarily all that impressed with the current application. It was like, I walk by a lot of stocks on the floor. They don't really stop me in my tracks.
Right.
And one of these things I think is like a solution looking for a problem. Like I'm not sure if there's a huge like sock on the floor problem in the world that needs to get solved. But a little sort of piece of trivia: Nova Scotia is actually one of the fastest aging provinces in all of Canada. So we have a lot of aging people here and aging at a rate that's faster than any other place in the country. So when I saw this, I'm like, what are the again second or third leaps of logic and collisions that happen when we have all of these seniors that we don't have homes for, we don't have enough service providers to provide home care. There's no real place for them in the hospital. Where are the applications of that kind of precise technology, Edward, right? To pour a cup of tea or to play cards or to have a combination of some of these technologies. Like Edward, I think you were talking about the AI pet that you could have that you don't have to feed. Well, what's the extension of this technology and that technology to provide companionship for an aging senior whose family lives 5 provinces away, right? Like I think those are the kinds of things that are interesting to me about this kind of stuff.
Well, that's the second time you brought up, Andrew, the idea of building on what's already there. I think that's a great idea. I think maybe we have a whole bunch of inventors and innovators and entrepreneurs going to CES and just not saying, "Ooh, this is cool," but no, what can I take this and make something else out of? That might be a whole new thing, Andrew.
Yeah, and like the same thing exists within like how do we apply traditional business models to social issues, right? I think that's a new thing I'm seeing in our work is things like housing, how the housing crisis that's happening. Like people can't find a house, and as a result, employers can't get people to move to a town because they don't have anywhere for them to live. We're seeing a lot of innovate like that would typically be a social issue that would be taken up by a state or a municipality or government funded in some way. I think there's like real innovation happening on the business model side to say, hey, if we this is a model that works over here in this industry, can we apply it to social housing and have it work and solve a massive problem that a lot of especially rural communities are facing right now. So I think that
Yeah.
that those like connecting the dots, there's lots of application for that.
Yeah. George makes a good point too in the audience that really the main logic behind this is it makes it more effective at doing its regular job, which is being a Roomba, ostensibly. It vacuums the floor, and now it doesn't have to worry about the clutter. So instead of getting hung up on the sock, it puts the sock away, and now it can continue its job.
Ah, great point, George.
It's just the robotics at CES. They're coming along so fast. I know some people are disappointed in where they're at, but I mean, there was a company, Poly Robotics, and I mean, they have a humanoid robot. You can get it with one or two arms, and it truly does some very, and that's what amazes me, the minute ability that it has, the ability to pull a credit card from a wallet and put it back in, the ability to actually check you out at a convenience store and open the door for you and ring up your order and do all the things that, well, going to eliminate a whole lot of jobs. And but I believe that that's how they're showcasing it. But as Andrew brings up so many times, there's going to be many uses for that type of technology, all the way from surgery, where you don't have the shaking hand of a surgeon, to knowing the density of the membrane that they have to cut through because it's already programmed into the robot, and just seeing some of, again, I bring up that one, poly robotics, just the ability to carry out that minute working with its hands and arms, was very impressive, and where they've made leaps and bounds over the last couple of years. So this is cool for a Roomba, but they're doing it in every field and every industry using robotics. I mean, from bricklayers to housekeepers at hotels.
Robotic surgery is getting, and again, this is, I remember seeing a video of it was, and they were, they don't want to demo a surgery robot working on a person. So what they did is they took a grape and they actually peeled the grape with these surgical robot hands. So it's amazing what they can do. Just
5 years ago, it had crushed the grape, right?
yes. Yeah, it'd have been this stage of development, so we can pick a sock up off the floor. Let's see, anything else? Let's do one more. Let me look over. Leo, if you see one you saw before and you thought, well, any honorable mentions, Leo? I know you've been looking all over these all week, so.
I do got to say, Bali by Samsung looks pretty exciting.
Oh, did I go over that one before?
Well, I don't
This
think
one?
so.
Oh.
Actually, I don't even know if that was on the list, funny enough, but it's basically BB-8 from Star Wars, but it's real. Like that's the insane thing. Yeah,
Oh,
if you type in Bali, Ballie, Samsung, that'll pop right up. It's nuts.
Ballie,
There we go.
Samsung CES. You want to see the CES
Yep.
version?
Cool.
There we go.
Yeah. Look at that. It's got a little projector. It's AI powered. It follows you around. That's insane.
Bali AI robot will actually be released this year. Okay, that looks cool. Oh, it'll like do a screen on the floor. That's
Yeah. Yeah, it's
cool.
got a built-in projector.
Built-in projector. Okay, and that's for the wall. Oh, that's
Miniature
cool.
R2D2. Is that what we've got going on here?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, yeah. 10-year-old version of me is over the moon over this. And it's got virtual buttons too. So like when it projects, you can actually select things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like those, projected keyboards.
Hmm,
So yeah, it's not just visual. Like there's an interactive component to that projection.
that is wild. Your very own R2D2.
Yeah.
This is
Which,
kind of the point I was
begs,
making earlier. They're talking about it's going to be released this year. So much of the technology that I was seeing at CES, it was available now or very soon. And this is just another good point of it. Or
yeah. Yeah, usually it's kind of like those concept car shows where, things are maybe gonna happen eventually, but that is exciting. Well, that begs the question, let's start with you, Edward. What are you most excited about that you saw?
Yeah.
so, again, you said 10-year-old you. I'm a 50-year-old kid. That's my real problem. And as I was walking the show floor, I was talking with some teammates, and I was like, I'll take one of everything. To say what I was most excited about, if money was not an issue, there was an RV that turned into a pop-up home. I forget the name of the company, AC Power or something like that. But my father is an RVer. He's got a gypsy soul. He's 81 and he's all over the place. And those slide outs, they pop out about what, 18 to 24 inches. They give you a little more room. I think this had like a 8 foot slide out. I'm probably exaggerating, but it literally turned into like a 460 square foot home. All the latest gadgets and technologies. And for $100, you can get on the wait list. And for 300 grand, they say today you can own it. I'm sure in 2028, when they're actually available, 300 grand won't touch it. But man, that is something where if money was not a factor, I would love to have this for the world given invention seminars, or at least the US and Canada.
Wow.
All right. All right. Well, let's see. I think it's time to move on to let's see. Brandon, you had talked to us a little bit early on about your new what you've been getting into lately. You want to give us an update on that, or
Sure.
help get the word out?
And then if we've got like a couple minutes, do we have the ability that I can screen share? And I was going to show like a quick top 5 points I would tell people.
Do that. First I gotta find you in here. There you are. And I'm making you a co-host. There we go.
Awesome. And then I was going to read something that I already wrote, but so I'm working on this LinkedIn guide, and the working title right now, might have to work with Leo because he's good on the copyright side, is Your Next Million on LinkedIn, Your Next Million in Revenue, Profit, Followers, and Impressions. This book's a hand-on guide for mastering LinkedIn, teaching you the strategies and techniques to build a powerful, results-driven profile. Course is structured in 101, 201, 301, 401 level posting, because you can get into the basics and just learning and tagging companies. And then you can get into where you are co-branding projects and tagging project managers, or putting your logo next to other companies and actually getting real impressions, because anyone that is following that page now is seeing your post. And then this is actually not a boring textbook. It's a step-by-step guide. It's going to have videos, tutorials, and screenshots. I'm also looking, this is more limited to the KY group. I'm looking for a few motivated individuals to tutor for free. In exchange, I'm going to use your before and after profile pictures and your analytics to show some of your previous posts, or if you've never made a post, I'm going to teach you how to make your first couple ones actually stand out. And this is an opportunity to learn, grow, transform LinkedIn into your most valuable business tool. Let's create your success story together with Your Next Million on LinkedIn.
Cool.
And then I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to minimize you guys. Wrong one. You can see my LinkedIn profile, correct?
Nope. We see your screen of your computer.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So if I was just going over the top 5 things for people, I'm kind of hard on people because I like LinkedIn and I've been able to generate revenue off of it and projects, is your profile picture not having just your wedding photo. Like, people can tell, I'm glad it's a happy day, but there's other images you can get of yourself at either a company event or an outing where you're in professional attire. And then there's a lot of networking groups where they will take headshots for you as part of the lunch and learn. Get that emailed to yourself and then make that your new LinkedIn profile. There's also a few things you can do to make it stand out. Like if you want to use your company logos or pictures and colors, you can make it stand out so that when you're going against thousands of people, you have something that catches them for more than a second. They're actually looking at you. And then I've also done a lot of LinkedIn training with some of the LinkedIn Navigator trainers, and they want to be able to know what you do in 3 seconds. So if someone looks at your profile for the first time, within 3 seconds, they should know what you're doing. If you're a painter, if you're a doctor, a tutor, they should know. So I make my profile very clear and crisp with what I'm doing in the electrical field. And I've also added that I'm a patented inventor because it's entertaining when I'm out in the field and I find people that have patents and I'm like, hey, how's your patent going? And it could be 20 years old, but they posted on LinkedIn one time that they made some valve and they're like, they thought I was there to sue them or something. And I'm like, no, I was just looking at your LinkedIn for interesting things. And then a couple other good things that LinkedIn's added is you can actually make featured posts. So if you've made a couple things that were actually popular, you can then highlight them so that people see them first. And then in my guide, I go through how to actually tag other companies because you can't just put the pound symbol. You actually have to do the @ symbol. And then if the text is not blue, you're not doing it right. And so I'm constantly on other people's feeds and info to see how they're going. And I see them start a new job or I see them tag a hospital for a charity event they did. They didn't tag the hospital. It's in black. It's not going to get any analytics. It's the different psychological aspects of it with a post of video versus text versus a smiling picture versus a smiling video. And then where I end this at is I make a joke that I'm even going to have posts when I'm dead because I also pre-schedule post. So I can show you that I already have things coming up that I pre-writ. So not everyone's got a minute a day or 5 minutes to spend on LinkedIn, but if you spent an hour once a week or once a month, you could have every Tuesday at 7 a.m. something post that's relevant to your industry, something that you did, an event that you were at, that then you share a photo that you were with them. And that's a basic gist of it. And then, of course, I am looking for a couple people to take on, and I'll show you some before and afters of what I've done now and showing them how much more professional their either business looks, their profile looks. On to you, Don.
Well, that is so cool, Brandon. So I think you had an interesting story of how this all kind of started and evolved for you as a business.
For my personal product or for the LinkedIn side?
The LinkedIn side.
Basically, I was out in a networking event and somebody was asking me like why my posts look so good or like how do I emulate that? And they were basically just hand me money in their phone and they're like post about this event for me. And so I took a picture of us together and then I tagged the host, the organization, and where we are at, and just bam. And this is like 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. And then Monday, he's like, man, you wouldn't believe the responses I got. And then people that were at that event saw my post and then they reached out to me and emailed me that they needed my services. And I'm like, well, you probably should have got their business card at the event too, but I'm glad that worked. And I kept getting those interactions and people would pay me to screen share or they would want to make a collage because they didn't know how to do it. And so I started structuring some of the proteges of like 101 level, 201 level, where we just do real basic post all the way to when we were fixing their profile, adding a banner, and then tagging companies they're associated with. And then like if you look at my profile, I made a couple of screenshots also of like when I started a new position, I actually took a picture of me with the company logo because the regular LinkedIn generic one is just like some happy face things, or you can pick like a birthday celebration, which is fine, but it also lets you add an image. You will get so much more response if it's a picture of you shaking the hand with your boss, or if you're putting a shovel in the new headquarters, than if it's just that very generic one. And that's part of LinkedIn is it has a bunch of uploaded generic ones, and that's what everyone's seeing. When you add a little bit of flavor and sauce to it, you're going to get better results. And you're not listed in, it's a benefit. I've gotten work off of LinkedIn because I was in an organization called IFMA, and a gentleman reached out to me from way out of state, and he goes, "Hey, you're in this organization. I trust you to work on my project." And then he looked at what I was doing as like, this aligns with what we want. So it's all just kind of coalesce together, and then this is what I'm doing to help other people and inventors.
That's fantastic. All right. Well, Brandon, what if somebody wanted to connect with you? Where do they need to go?
I will put it in the chat for our Zoom call, and then I'll also put it in the YouTube chat. But if you search my name on LinkedIn, just / Brandon Kohler, Kollar, and send me a connection request, and where I've already gotten several from the meeting on Tuesday, and then that the word spread. So I've got a couple people planned now, and then the more I get to hear from, I'm looking forward to it. And then it's not just me. Like, I've also interviewed a couple people that are really popular in my town, and a couple industry people say, "Hey, what's your 5 top picks of what you would do?" That way it's not just coming from me, it's from the industry saying, "Hey, here's what I did in my portion of it that it went well." Or, "I'm a videographer and I did this aspect of it." Because I watch a guy in a certain part of, I think it's New Zealand, and he actually shows the behind the scenes editing of his videos with smoke and lights. I'm like, this is really cool. And then people are like, "I want you to shoot my commercial with ketchup." And it's like, and he'll do it. So sometimes even that before behind the scenes and B-roll, people are really entertained with and really like.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Well, Brandon, thanks so much. We're really excited for you, and keep us posted. Keep us posted.
Will do, guys.
Andrew, if somebody wanted to find out more about Mashup Lab, which, by the way, I think you've got one of the coolest names and coolest logos of any ESO I've seen. Where to go to find the chat, but
yeah, LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me. So I put my link in the to my profile in the chat. And Brandon, I think LinkedIn is probably one of the most underutilized assets that entrepreneurs have, and people just don't quite understand how to take full advantage of it. So I think you're really onto something. It's been a massive contributor to the growth of our business over the last 5 years. The very first cohort we did outside of Nova Scotia happened in Rhinelander, Wisconsin, because of LinkedIn and the random connections that can happen. So I'm a big fan. But yeah, connect with me there. The real thing that makes our magic happen, Don, is really finding those organizations, be it a chamber of commerce or sometimes even a local community college or a local economic development agency that believes that they have untapped entrepreneurial talent in their community. And that's really what we specialize in. Like, well over 85% of the now close to 1,500 people that have gone through our process over the last 5 years, 85% of them never signed up for a business or entrepreneurship program ever before, despite having access to a ton of stuff, some of which are delivered right in their own backyard. So we find those entrepreneurs and those innovators that are sometimes hidden in plain sight, and we get them off the sidelines and then plugging into all the awesome stuff that typically exists in a community for them to tap into. So those are the folks we want to connect with. So if there's somebody in your town that's a municipal councilor or part of an economic development agency, we'd love to chat with them about what's going on there and how we might be able to be helpful. The second thing I'll give you sort of a bit of an inside scoop on. I'm not sure if I mentioned this to the two of you guys yesterday or not. So the only thing we've been doing over the last 10 years is this virtual business incubator 6-week program, mostly for folks that are working on new ideas. And After the 6 weeks, people have kind of been falling off the cliff, right? So we get them all excited, we help them out a bunch, and then we've been, scrambling like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to help these folks after the 6 weeks of the program. And we really didn't have a thing for them to sign up for next, even though they were saying like, where's the next thing? So the next thing is coming, and we're going to beta test it with some of our alumni from our original program and kind of, get some of the tweaks sort of ironed out. But eventually we're going to be opening up to folks that have gone through other things that are kind of at that stage and ready to sort of take their idea to the next level. So we'll be offering that up publicly sometime here in the first half of 2025. So if you're interested in that, and that might be something that could be helpful to you, like I said, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll sure be posting about it there, and we'll get you on the list to be the first to find out about it.
Fantastic. Excited. Keep us posted. We'll help you push it out.
Will do. Thanks.
All right. Edward, any parting thoughts, and how do they find you on Inventor Process?
Yeah, first, I just want to say thank you, Don and Leo, for having me on the panel. I have totally enjoyed myself. I mean, being able to sit on a panel with yourselves, with Brandon, with Andrew, it's quite the honor for me, and I've learned a lot. So again, I just want to say thank you for that. If you need assistance with your tangible new products, Edward at inventorprocess.com. We're not a marketing firm in the respect that, like an Invent Help or even an Invent Right. We very simply educate, empower, and equip so independent entrepreneurs can successfully market their own products. We provide everything from go-to-market plans and complete business development services to just if you're missing that one piece of the puzzle, be it research, be it copywriting, be it intellectual property protection, we have experts in the field that can assist. So again, Edward at Inventor Process, inventorprocess.com. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm checking all the time to see if people are liking. So if you want to connect and like, it'd make me feel good. All right. Thanks a lot for having me on.
Fantastic. All right. Any parting words, Leo?
Really just thanks for coming, Edward and Andrew and Brandon. It was great having you guys on. It's great seeing you guys bounce ideas off each other, and it's just been a real honor and a privilege to have you here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I second that. I second that sentiment. So, all right, everyone, thank you so much for spending a Friday evening with us. This has been fun. I hope it's been fun for you. And stay tuned. Watch your email inboxes if you're on our mailing list. If not, check us out, kyinventors.org. And we will see you either at a workshop we have coming up later this month. You got to be a member for that. And then a whole bunch of other stuff coming up in February. So stay tuned. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night, and
Thanks,
we'll
everybody.
hope to see you next